Susaye, it's
Yes.
so gorgeous to see you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so excited because we've talked about this for such a long time.
I know, I know.
Happen to you, fabulous things, and fabulous things happen to me. So we're just, the perfect.
It's it's perfect and I love it. So let me introduce Susaye. For those of you who don't know, Susaye is a legendary vocalist, songwriter and producer, best known as the final member of the Supreme signed to Motown. She's performed with Ray Charles, Quincy Jones, Stevie Wonder, and even beyond this enormous performing career, she's also a tech entrepreneur, a visual artist, a thought leader. She's the CEO of Supreme Confidence and a passionate speaker on creative freedom and overcoming imposter syndrome.
Oh, wow. Even I'm impressed. When you say it like that, I go, oh, okay.
Oh,
So,
exactly. All of those things, all of those things. Um, But because we're on the Shameless experiment, I really wanted to interview and talk to Susaye about something that she's done really recently. She's written a great book called The Hater Blockers Handbook. And I would not even really have thought so much about this whole business of haters and hater blockers if it hadn't been for getting to know your book. And I actually wrote a post this morning about how I was going to be speaking to you. And I just named that it's like when when we start to have some success in our life and more visibility and think good things start coming to us, sometimes we can get a little bit funny reactions from the people around us. And it's just not what we're expecting. And I felt like even to just call that out was a bit like a taboo thing
yeah.
because it calls into question that expectation we have that everyone's always going to be celebrating.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And nobody, like you say, you're not prepared for it. There's no real way to prepare for it. But I think it's the seed of that is change. People, particularly people around you, expect you to be a certain way. Even if you're unpredictable, they think, oh, you should be, just don't change. That's the whole point because it makes them uncomfortable. It means they don't know what's going on. Is your relationship going to be the same? Are, are you happy? Are you not happy where you are? That sort of thing. And it makes people afraid in a way, and I realize that. But the main thing, that's people, I'm talking about close people that do know. But it's the people online is really what I'll say inspired me for the Hater Blockers Handbook, because I noticed several years ago when I first went online, someone's chopping wood over there. Oh my god, I'm excited. But online, and I noticed that people can say little things, and it's not their business necessarily, but they feel entitled to jump in because that's the nature of the internet. So they're unkind very often, or they say things just to get under your skin, particularly if you're succeeding at something, and it doesn't have to be something enormous, just something. And they go, "Oh, is that who you think you are, really? Oh." And I'm like, "Yeah, it is." So if I'm confronted by that, I've never stood for what I call the other people's mess, online, coming at you like that. I treat people with respect always. I try to enjoin them, what I'm saying and what I'm doing, but there's a meanness out there. And the Hater Blockers Handbook is just sort of a little lifeline. That was your line, by the way, which I thought was great. It's a little lifeline you can look at anytime you want to kind of, you know, kick the haters to the curb in a nice
It's like
way.
it's a beautiful tool because it's very centering because all these things can totally knock us off.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
And
I,
that's the key. isn't it? That's what they want, is to knock us off.
Knock
But
us off. And because I was wondering, because well, I was going to ask you this before we got into it, because I was thinking, it's a big thing to call this out. I mean, it's a courageous action, I think, to call it out and name it. And it feels very special that you've been in the world and that you're bringing back this bit of gold for us. And I wondered if you had been doing, this was just another courageous act, probably in a
yeah.
whole line of courageous act, calling things out.
Well, I haven't been one to really confront people. I think very often when people try to hurt you with their words or their actions, they're hurt about something. They might just be upset. They might, be feeling not well. It could be anything. So kindness is a big deal to me. And I always try to keep that level of respect, because I expect respect. Why shouldn't I be respected? And I think it's an empowerment. It really is. It's a way to say, to kind of stand up and say, okay, you know that's how you feel, and you don't think I'm up to the task, or you don't think I can do this, but watch me.
I love it how you kind of stay so positive. You you hold the line. You don't compromise yourself. Even,
no
you're compassionate and you're meeting them obviously, but I wanted to ask you a little bit like how can you like um how you handle it? What's your process?
Well, my mom was a wonderful example. She had a master's degree in music. She was a terrific musician, classical musician, and the times dictated that she do other things, not play classical music necessarily, but she she had her own hit records, and she was a Southern woman. She had a grand style. She was a Southern belle. She really was. She had a very commanding presence, but she could really, really put people in their place. Never crack that smile. She'd still be, this is such a lovely afternoon. And as soon as you get on board with the program, it'll be even better. I mean, that's her, you know. But because she was so commanding in her presence, you learned, you had to sit up and catch on what's going on. But I just found most people want your attention, and they want to be liked. They want to feel heard, to feel seen. They want their lives to be better. And very often it's the jealousy thing that we talked about before. When you look at something that someone has, or even someone, because that happens too, and you're jealous, and you're like, oh, you're not saying it necessarily out, but you feel, it's the way you feel, and the underpinning of that is, well, you should get you some of that. I feel that way. And I'm even willing to open the door to people and say, you should try this. This will make you happier. And they might fluff it off. They might take it to heart. You never know. But it reminded me of Dolly Parton, of all people. And Dolly said, if you see someone without a smile, give him yours. That's so
Oh,
typical. But that's real, isn't it? If you smile at someone rather than frown at them, and they're already thinking, oh, I want to kill you. you know, Only frowning at them is not going to help. So I try to give that sweetness, that sweet heart that we all have, and share that around the world. And I'm perfectly happy for people to join in and get the Hater Blockers Handbook, because it's good fun too. I wanted it to be fun.
it is. And well,
So,
so tell us a bit more. Will you take us through it?
sure. For instance, everyone has that uncle who's, ebullient and slaps you on the back. And they'll say, what are you doing with your life, kid? And I'll say, I'm the CEO of my own company now. He goes, oh, I didn't think you were that smart. it's that little under thing where people, they just try to get you down. And what I call like kicking you off of your high of success, of joy, which you're absolutely entitled to.
Yeah, you've been working hard for it, right?
There you go. You've achieved that, and you deserve the happiness and the uplifting and the empowerment and all of that that goes along with that achievement. So when people try to drag you off of that or just drag you down, it's terribly unfair. But you can do one of two things. You can go hee hee hee, and excuse yourself from your happiness, or you can say, look, Slim, just because you don't get it doesn't mean it's not real. Might not even ever get it, but but you feel better, and you
Yeah.
put them down. You haven't put them in what I call the handcuffs of your emotions and all of that. So the expectations can stay on an even keel. I still would treat you respectfully, but I'll also turn around and leave if you don't have that sense of, oh, we're respecting each other. I didn't know. You know, I think we deserve that. We really do. So it's play.susaye.com. And Susaye, which is the hardest name in the world, I'm sorry, but it's Susaye. So if you go to play, dot susaye.com, you can pick it up or download the PDF file, which is
I am I absolutely love it. And I think about it a lot. I think about it a lot. And it just, I guess what you're saying is it's not, well, it is kind of sometimes your nearest and dearest, you know, and
yeah, it can be. We call that the resistance, don't we?
yeah,
The resistance is real. It's a thing that is very deeply rooted in, we all are still trying to, I won't say grow up, but grow away from our traumatic childhood. I know I am. We all have things, but that's why music is such a connector, because I truly believe in music, there is a connective thread that heals that trauma. And it's something to do with, we all have a song that we can think of. I knew this song came out when I was 15 years old, but it's stuck in my heart and stuck in my head
yeah,
because there's something there that soothed all of that out. You know, it
yeah,
made it special, and I can hear that song right now, and it's 400 years later, but you still get that same healing from it because the
yeah,
thing is still there that it grabs and soothes. So I know we live in a difficult time,
yeah.
and a lot of our mindset needs uplifting. A great deal of it does.
Do
We have
you think do you think there's a way that we can like field people's kind of comments and just still stay positive, keep in the positive or even give the positive back? I mean, it's a tricky one when they're triggered, then they say something and I'm triggered and
yes, and people are sensitive these days,
yeah, and
particularly.
I'm sensitive.
Sure, we all are, aren't we? You know,
Yeah,
we feel, and that's, to me, that's the saddest part of our times, is very often we're not allowed to feel, but we still do, don't we feel everything. We feel all the shocks and the horrors and the desperate attempts to make us unstable, and that's what's going on in the world. It's a
yeah,
spiritual upending, to get us down. And I'm not going that way. I'm just not. You said something very interesting about, it's almost like we have to ignore all of that and still push the positivity forward. But you know, there's a huge amount of people that don't want to be positive,
yeah,
and what they want is something they can't really articulate, but they feel it. And see, that's where our humanity comes into play. We feel it, they feel it, They don't know how to articulate it, but we do. You see? So you can connect with people, everybody. And it's the funniest thing. It's the funniest thing. I think of an acting teacher that I had when I was very young. I majored in drama, School of Performing Arts. And that's good because life is full of drama, isn't it? But she'd say, you know, there's a place inside you that is stable, that's focused. You can still, oversee all that's going on, but that focus, that's your lane. That's the lane that you stay in. So you can help people on a positive way, even though things are bad, even though things are wild and traumatic. There's a human place that we can all touch, it's in our hearts. And I just want to shift gears for a second and talk about your whole shameful. I say shameful. No,
My shameless existence.
your shameless experiment. It's just a fabulous thing because I went through, growing up being a painter. Of course, you want to paint nudes because that's the human beautiful body. And then, but whoa, we can't do that part. We can't part. I've been there. I've been there. And I know that it brings down some very deep-seated thing inside of us of who we are and how we feel about our bodies, how we feel about humans, how, just how here we are again, back in our feels. But
Yeah, yeah.
you tackled that like a mama grizzly bear, girl. You
Well, actually, I did. I did keep it silently in me for about a year because I was terrified what would happen if I said, "This is what I'd like to do." But this idea was just knocking at my door, and I was just like, "Okay, what am I going to do?" And anyway, I could never have imagined, but it was persistent. It was one of those, and also I had a whole history of turning away from that.
really?
Yeah, because I discovered nude drawing, life drawing at art school when I was like 18 and 19. And then when I came to London, they said actually life drawing is we're not doing like in the 90s they said you're too figurative. I had a
Yeah.
scholarship to apply to a school and they said no, you're too figurative. So it was like, oh, okay, well, at art school you learn to reinvent yourself quite quickly
Well,
because every time you have a bad crit. So I became something else. And then I came back to it somehow. I found my way back, 20 years ago and started painting these naked dancing women. But again, when people would say to me, who are they and what are they doing? I didn't really have any answers and it just freaked me out to have the questions and I put it down again. So, it totals about 30 years of putting it down. And I feel like I've had unfinished business with the nudes for all that time.
yeah, I love the way you put it. I've had unfinished business with the dudes. Well, the excellent part about it is you are a hell of an artist. You put such. I look at your paintings, and you've got this enormous piece of paper, and you're covering it, and it's so artistic. Can I say it's such a beautiful thing to watch. To me, the process, watching your process, watching you put a blank page down there and coming up with this fabulous figure, it's just, oh, it's breathtaking. I mean, we can tell, I'm an artsy girl. I always have been. And
Yeah.
I love every creative, almost any area that there are. We've got lots of birds today coming pretty close. But it's just marvelous to watch. It is to
Yeah.
see you. You can see your focus. You can feel it just flowing from you. And my hat's off. I just
Oh, thank you. I mean, it's amazing to not have it's only the shame. In fact, I wonder if because we've all been shamed, haven't we? the things our kindergarten teacher said to us. And I'm guessing even, some of the funny comments that people make are probably had their root cause in being shamed or being
That's right.
told some part of them wasn't okay and that they weren't allowed to be there. And then when they get to see someone else doing that, well, of course they feel irritated.
Yeah, exactly. It throws me back to the 60s, when everyone was, I mean, you could go to Haight Ashbury in San Francisco, and people were walking around just topless, butt naked, and then the women's movement didn't help at all. The women were burning their bras in the aisles. We're like, we're changing things. And that's all well and good. That's fine. We needed that. Even though to a great extent, I think it it brought some negativity in what I call in the war between men and women, quite a lot actually, because there was a lot of resentment there that women wanted their own money. For shame! There we go. And you've been shamed out of a lot of things, the ownership, the choices to make, for yourself as a woman. But the pill didn't help. We got the pill, and a lot of people were suddenly free, and free in their minds, free in their bodies, free to sleep with who they wanted to, and to choose what to do about every aspect of their lives. And that's what got us here. But we're at a point right now, because there is such opposition in a lot of ways to women being free, and having the ability to choose your life and the direction of your life. And hey, we're already entrepreneurs. Sorry, we're not going back there.
Exactly. But even though we can be so free, if we're not free, you know, things like shame, it's an invisible,
Yeah,
yucky, like internal chains of iron. And it's yeah,
it's peculiar, isn't it? That it
yeah,
exists when you consider, I'm American. I was born in America, and there is still a very prudish underpinning all around. There is.
yeah.
People still look down. I mean, and clothes are less and less. Girls, I was at the beach day before yesterday, and the lifeguard had on a life jacket, but from the back she had no pants.
Oh, I know, I know, I know. It's really funny, isn't it?
You're thinking, distracting.
I know. I know. It's a different type of swimsuit on the beaches. I'm seeing them around here and it's like, okay.
Oh, we've got the buttons out.
Yeah.
And I can't do that to everyone. There's just too much. I think the people or people who choose should be able to do that if they like. But there's still that whole dichotomy for women. If you if a woman is harmed in any way, then people say she was asking for it. Well, gee, you know what I'm saying.
I
My
do.
favorite. Have you heard about women choosing the bear?
No. What is woman choosing the bear?
They said if you are on an island that you're stranded on an island, would you rather have a man that you don't know or the bear? Women have chosen the bear. So what state are we in? That the bear is a safer option. That's pretty deep. That's a
It
whole other book,
is.
isn't it?
It's a whole other book. I think it comes down to there's still some way that women keep giving their power away to men in the
Yes.
way that we kind of some underlying idea that we think they're going to come and help us.
Yes.
And so
That's
you know,
mm,
we're not
mm.
helping ourselves because there's so much shame around.
But that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. We must help ourselves. We
Mm.
always had to, you know. That's how we got to women's lib. We helped ourselves. I'm helping myself to this chunk, you know.
Yeah. So
And
when someone has got some kind of crappy thing to say, comes
Yeah,
comes straight back. That's part of it, isn't it?
it certainly is. And it's the thing about power is self-worth. That we can go back to self-worth every time. I I was taught to always love myself. My mother said, look, you know, you're a woman, you're a small woman, and you've got to deal with a big world. You've got to love yourself because it's an uphill battle as it is. We, as a group of people, that's women, between you and I, we can do everything. We can
Yeah.
do, and a lot of it we can do at the same time. I dearly love, I will always advocate for women because women deserve the very best. They deserve the best life. They deserve the best. They deserve nature and flowers and all of the things. I mean, there's a whole thing about men buying diamonds and all, but buy your own damn diamonds. I think women must treat themselves in the way that they want to be treated by others. Consequently, you've got to do the things that make you happy. You've got to choose the things that you've got to choose the partners that make you happy. You have It's too hard, Marriage, I don't recommend marriage to anyone. I've been married 40 years. Recommend it because everybody's not in the same mind space to make it work. They say I do, but do they? Yeah, know what I mean? It's crazy. It's a crazy world. There are all of these weddings. That's what girls really want is a wedding. I'm like, there should be like just group weddings with just girls there. Let's just have fabulous weddings.
I know. I mean, I'm paraphrasing Laurie Handlers, but she says like women kind of just want to be princesses. They want to make the men like they kind of want men to just turn them back into princesses, which they've always been waiting to do. So yeah,
Right.
exactly. It would be good to have a big, yeah, if all the girls could just go and get married together.
You know, have the dresses. You don't have the other families to say, oh, he's marrying her. you know, it's
Oh
fun.
my,
Make fun. But it's a serious thing. You want a wedding. Do you really want a marriage? And we know by the statistics that, oh, I wanted for 2 years. Because that 2 year mark, things change. Even 1 year, even living with someone. But I don't know. I'm old enough to not care. I say, I don't think that anyone should marry anyone without living together. I don't think
yeah.
so. At least for 6 months. Because, okay, 6 months is long enough to see where you are leaving your underwear. I, and are you going to take out the trash? And, who's messy and who's not? And all those things. And what is your temper like? Oh, and see, I'm bad. I'm bad with that. I've never been, well, I've been pretty close. And a man, I want to choke you, but I can't. I know it's against the law. And that only kind of spurs me on, which is a character flaw. But I love so deeply, you know. And because I do, I think I deserve the very best in that department. I was lucky enough to marry an excellent man. He's an excellent man. And he's not perfect. Who among men is perfect?
I mean, I'm not perfect. I mean,
No, no, me either. But I expect a lot. I do because I've lived a long time. Oh my gosh, Michelle. I have. I've been blessed to live a long. My goal was 14. I thought, oh, when I get to be 14 years old, I will have accomplished everything.
oh my goodness.
And we know none of that. That's not real. That was my 12-year-old mindset. But I've made it this far, and there's still so much I'm excited about.
Yeah.
There's so many things I want to do. that I want to experience and places I want to see. I want to see Greece. Oh my no. But now, I think it's a lovely life.
Yeah.
And we have the opportunity. The thing about throwing the negativity away, we must. We must consider, is my peace of mind and my spiritual well-being more important than all the mess out there? Well, yes, it is. So we choose. And nowadays, we choose very carefully. We must. That's part of what radical courage is.
Radical courage.
That's what that's really about.
Yeah.
These are the times for us to choose to be courageous for ourselves, for our legacy, our future, our kids, but start here. Start
Yeah.
Be courageous enough to step up to what
Yeah.
you really want. We talk about, what do I want? But are you willing to do what you really want? Because that opens up a whole kettle of fish, that we hadn't considered. The responsibility, take accountability, that this is what I want for myself. Now, that means some people may fall to the wayside, and that's sad. But, I've given it 70 plus years of making others as happy as I could because I'm a human. You know, I've made mistakes. I've stepped places I probably shouldn't. But now, my dear, we're doing this.
We are doing this.
Yeah,
We are doing this. And I think actually what you just said as well, radical courage is really also the courage to speak up for yourself. When someone says something, it's like the courage to get a hold of to get a hold of the reply and to speak up for ourselves.
absolutely agree. I couldn't agree more because what you decide for yourself in your own head and heart and spirit and soul are the things that you should expect for yourself. What are we here for otherwise? We're here to love. Oh, love thyself as and love others. That's pretty much, if you can do that, everything else falls into place.
Yeah.
Because then you feel good about your movements, you feel good about your direction and your space you create for yourself. The one thing I think I took away from my teenagery was that the thoughts that I have in my own head belong to me. If I can work for myself really hard, because my standards are high, no one can stress me. No one can move me. It's where I move myself that's most important. And that's, as a human being, I feel I have purpose in this world. And I know you do too. You've
Yeah.
broken the big shame bubble. You've made people think about it and talk about it. And that's wonderful because people have shame, which I will tie with guilt as well.
Yeah.
Shame and guilt are two of the most unnecessary things in humanity's entire realm. I used to go out sometimes. This is as a young teenager. And I knew I was wrong. When you're climbing out of a window to go to a party. You're wrong. I'm small. Anything could happen. And I grew up in New York. You know, anything could happen. But gratefully, I was protected in a way, in some way. You know, I can't help but be grateful. But I'd go and then I'd come home and I'd apologize, And I believed in that. It is better to apologize later and still get to do the thing. But but that's not the right mind frame. We know that. But I was young and experimenting. But now I think we must jump. I really do. We must do the things that we really, really want to do, that our gut's telling us to do, that our heart it's telling us to do. Because that set of courage, courage is, what's the word? It's catching, it's contagious. So if I knew I should be courageous in a moment and I didn't do it, then what I'm doing is setting up for someone else to miss out on a moment, on an important thing, on a thing that they should have done in their lifetime. And they didn't see me do it, and they were looking for inspiration, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I believe in that. I love
Yeah,
it.
I think so too. And I think it gives people permission, like the line about to say to your uncle, hey, Slim, you know, you may not understand it, but that doesn't mean it's not happening.
Yeah.
And it's like people would see that and it would give them permission.
Yes, it's very true. I think for I knew before, I would say COVID did a real thing, to everybody's head. Just the being locked down and that. It made you desire freedom and movement again. And we didn't realize how much until we got into the heart of it. But it was an important moment for humanity because whether we admit it or not, we made everybody think about one thing. Everybody's on the same page to a certain extent. Here's something that can kill you. It's pretty massive. You had to pay attention. And I thought at that time, well, gee, is this as far as we go? But here we are, you know, here we are this much later. And we're in this marvelous group, of course, of entrepreneurs and creators who have their finger on the pulse of what's possible.
Yeah.
Possible. And that's what they've given us. That's what they've handed us, the possibility from the impossibility. Because, I honestly have to say, if people did what they really want as a career, it might be, it might take them out of the hustle and bustle of the world, and they might not make as much money. But we've found the key even to that. If you're doing what you love, then it's going to be successful, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's true. And it's like, yeah, exactly. What do you really, really, really want?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I like that. We've heard that one before. But
Oh,
that's the stuff.
oh,
That's the stuff. That's where I think
yeah,
right now. And I'm very happy to say that we're on that path, both you and I, on that path.
yeah,
Doing what you deeply, deeply care about, what you love, in spite of everything. In
yeah.
spite, you know, that's an important tome that will be written into history. Did what they wanted to.
They
You know,
did what they wanted to. Yeah.
that's right. That's what's so gratifying, about all the reviews and all that, and how the categories of women's business and transportation,
Yes,
all this stuff. It's like saying, yeah, this is true. This is it. And that's brilliant,
it is. It's real. It's so special. So, so special. Oh, and Susaye, I can't believe like an hour has gone by. But anyway, thank you so, so much for your time and for sharing all of that.
It was such a pleasure. I love you. I think
Mm.
you're marvelous, and keep doing what you're doing. Please. All right.
Oh,
But mostly for you. All
yeah.
right.
Thank you.
My talk to you soon.
Okay. Love you.